How's it going, PD team? I've got a special video today. We're going to be discussing how to model and texture an LED light for product visualization. This model is an ambiguous product that frames the LEDs. It should be noted, these LEDs are generic representations, and you should always refer to your client's CAD files when provided. In this video, we'll cover 4 sections: modeling an LED, developing the materials, animating the blink, and if you'd like more on this subject, you should refer to my recent video entitled Now You Can Animate Without Keyframes. Link is in the description below. And if you stick around, we'll be setting up some basic Xpresso controls. This is great if you work with a team of people and need to produce a rig for animators. It's also quicker and easier if you're an individual to get things dialed in and or make changes. With that being said, let's dive in. So here's the model of the LEDs that we're going to be producing. You can see one of them is blinking and it's showing up in the display. We've got a red, a blue, and a white. And the process is the same for each of the colors. And when you look at an LED, there's the actual LED that's a material that is a light emitting diode. And then you have this plastic part around it that's the diffuser that acts like a Fresnel lens that distributes the light in an omnidirectional pattern. And if you notice with the red that's blinking, we've set up some basic controls where we can change the blink speed, so I can speed this up so it blinks quicker, and I can adjust the fall off field as well. We'll be creating that towards the end of the video if you stick around. Okay, so here we are in a blank project and we've got an HDR that is a studio light. And when you model an LED out, you're going to want to model it to spec, or you can create a generic one with generic sizes and scale it down. That's up to you. But I'm going to start off with the cylinder, reduce the segments, change the height to 100, and I'm just going to make a model that's generic. Because LEDs are so small, you don't really typically need a lot of detail to be exact. You just need that nice dome diffuser and the actual filament inside that lights up, the diode. So here's my shape. I'm going to go ahead and hit C to convert, go to my edge mode, double click, makes a loop selection, right click, bevel it, and you can set this to kind of be, I found 3 is a pretty good amount. And then we're going to go underneath, go to our face selection mode, hit 9 to do face selections, the paint tool, delete. And then with this, I'm going to add a smoothing, so it smooths it. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and add a thicken. And I'm holding Alt and that nests it. And I'll set this diffuser to something like 2, so it's thinner. And there's our basic shape. I'm going to take LED diffuser. I'm going to take this, duplicate another version of it, go to my profile view, go to my model mode, scale this down, hold shift so it snaps, make it rather small like that. Go to my point mode, marquee select by hitting 0, and then drag down. And I would normally do snapping. I'm not going to turn on snapping, but if you want to be exact with it. And then what we'll do is we'll go into our diode here and we'll go to edge selection mode, select it here, hit D to extrude, right click, close polygon tool, set it to patch, rotate it until it's straight like that. And there we go. So there's our modeling out of the way. I'm going to take both objects here, Alt G to group, call this LED. And I like taking the cap, which I'll call cap, turn on X-ray so I can see through it. And there's the finished result of our model. Now the LED part that lights up is actually pretty thin and small. So something like that. And when you model this, you could do like a more flat, elongated shape, like a ducktail type shape. LEDs come in all different shapes and sizes. So refer to your client's product build. Okay, so let's start developing the materials. So I'm going to first double click. I'm in Redshift and I'm going to type in cap, diffuser, make another one, call this LED. Drag the LED onto the LED here, incorrectly named. So I'll fix that. Diffuser goes on diffuser and LED goes on to LED. So the diffuser is clear. So I'm going to go ahead and do transmission, turn it up. And now we can get rid of the X-ray because it displays properly. And then our LED, we're going to set to, this does not matter actually. We can just turn this off. We don't need reflections. And we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom and just turn this up to 10 on our emission. And then this is where our emission color comes into play. We're going to plug in our values into this. Actually, I'll do the 216, which is a blue. And it comes out kind of this like bluish green when the weight is turned up this high. So you'll put it to the value that you feel is fit. Next, what we'll do is we're going to bring the roughness down on the diffuser because we want the reflections to be sharp. So it looks like a plastic polished cap. But then what we're going to do is we're going to offset that by blurring the inside. So before I do this, I'm going to show you the effect. So I'll turn on the Redshift render and the IPR, and you can see it's not lighting up the dome. So to do that, what we can do is we can turn the extra roughness up to 0.5, and then you can see it's now kind of mimicking the light, how a LED will look. You'll get this hot spot, but the diffuser is white, and that's not what we want. So what we'll do is we'll go down to the bottom, and we'll pick that same blue color, which was 216, turn this all the way up, and then we're going to just do like 0.25, just an ever so slight amount. And you can see we still have a little bit of white appearing, actually a lot of white appearing. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our scatter color to this blue as well. And then we're going to set our depth. Our thickness of our object is 2 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the thickness to 1, and there you go. So now you can see when I zoom out, it has that LED effect. And you can play with these values if you want something brighter, somewhere around 0.25. Looks good. Now, this is going to give us a bunch of hurdles when we animate this. So I'll be discussing that here in a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my LED here, and let's just bring this up to 20 and see what that does. So there you go. So my other model that I produced was a lot smaller. So that value of brightness needed to be turned up a lot lot more when it's bigger. So this value will depend on the scene scale and how much it lights up this dome. We can also take the diffuser and scale it down and we get a different look, or we could scale up the LED. There we go. Okay, so there's the material. Let's go ahead and make it blink. Okay, so I've turned off the IPR, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our LED and we want to animate the light blinking. So I'm gonna go to the display color in the basic tab and set it to custom. Right click on here, go to field driver, click add. Then it gives us this color map. I'm gonna set the first point, which is off, to be black. Drag it up a little bit, make this my 216 color. I'm gonna do the same for the diffuser. So I'll go to the basic tab, go to material, custom, right click on it, field driver, add. Gives us our two drivers. And I'm gonna leave this one like this, kind of the same, like so. And I'll go back to the first one here and go to the fields, and I'm gonna click linear field. And with the linear field, this doesn't matter, but I like scaling it down so it's not as so wide. And we're gonna go to remap and we're gonna implement a curve. We'll set the length to 30 frames. And then here's where we can make our blink curve. So I'll start off going quick, and then the LED remains illuminated until the wattage gets, finishes. It will stay illuminated for a little bit. So you want a fall off on your LED. So it blinks on quick, and then the residual power kind of fades out of an LED and they kind of dim. Okay. So then I'm going to go to this field driver, go into fields and drag in our field into this one. So they're linked and they produce the same results. So if I hit play, you can see we get blinking appear. I'll make this a little bit longer so we can see it. And then when we get to the Xpresso, we're going to be controlling this value so we can make it blink quicker. I'll set it back to 20. Okay. So now that we made it blink, I don't need to see the material show up here like this. So what I can do is I can go to my diffuser, go to the basic tab, and I can change it back to material, and it will still blink. And it stores that color. You can see it's faded out, but it's still driving the color, and you can still access the value in the effect. Okay. So just because it's turned off doesn't mean that it's not actually animating. That's what I've noticed. So what we want to do next is we want to basically make our material react to this color here. So we'll double click, brings up our properties here. I like minimizing these, and we'll double click and type in user. And the one we're going to use is the color user data. And there's a preset where we can steal display color, and we'll expose the property that we're going to be bringing in, which is going to be the emission color. So I'm going to hold control and click it. It activates it, drag it in, and now it's linked. So very simple. You just have to remember to go into your presets, go to object and display color. And it's still accessing the display color, even though we've turned it off. It still works. So if I go here to my LED and turn this to material, it doesn't display, but it is going to render that way. I'm going to keep it on custom so I get the LED part blinking, but the cap I'll just keep off. So let's activate this because this one's a little bit trickier. Minimize these, bring in our user data, color user data, and we've got the color we're going to bring in and the scatter color. So we'll go in here to our deal, go into object, display color, drag it into scatter color, and we can control drag the end and go to emission. Now, if we were to render this, it's not going to look right if we leave the setup the way it's set up right now. And the reason being is when the light user data goes to black, you get a blurry black diffuse material and it won't look correct. What we want is a transparent glass. So to do that, we're going to actually be needing to adjust the roughness back down to 0. So as it blinks, it's going to bring up the diffusion of this extra roughness and then bring it back down. So we'll go ahead and click by holding control, click and activate. Let's do it here. There it goes. So to fix this, we're going to use a change range, and I'm going to use the change range, not the color change range, just the value change range. We'll plug in our color into our input, and then we'll need to set the output to 0.5, which is the max blurriness. So you can set to 0.5. We want it to go down to 0. So I'll plug that into the extra roughness, and there you go. Now you might run into an issue where you might want a curve for this because the blurriness you might want to activate sooner. It kind of just depends on your lighting, I've noticed. If that's the case, there's a fix for that as well. What you can do is you can do a ramp, and you can use a scalar ramp. And what you do is you set your max value, double click and set it to 0.5. And then you can drag this value like this and play around with this value. And you can see you're going to remap it to be sooner, fading in this blur. So not all the time will you need to do this, but just be aware of it. And so you can see I moved it. You can set this to 0.5 to be exact. And there you go. Okay. So you just take this and plug this in, and then plug this into the extra roughness, and you don't use the change range. But we're essentially doing a linear change range with this instead of remapping it. Minimize it, bring it down, and there you go. Now, the last step I want to discuss is the Xpresso. Okay, so let's do the Xpresso. What you're going to do is you're going to right click on the LED, go to programming, and you're going to click Xpresso. It adds this tag. I've got this Xpresso window docked. If it doesn't load, you just double click it and it loads it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the LED null group, and then we're going to do the linear field. We want to control this value. So I'm going to right click on it, user interface, copy user interface, go to my LED, select it, paste user data, click the group, and I'll call this LED control, drag our spline here, and we can call this blink speed, hit enter, hit OK. And then we'll go back to our linear field. We'll copy this spline here, user interface, copy user data, paste user data, and call it like fall off or something like that. Blink fall off. That's up to you. Hit OK. Now you can see ours is blank. I don't want to have to recreate this. So what I need to do is I need to select the spline, do Control C, go to our data here, and then do Control V. So it's already set. So if I go to my preset here, you can see it's already ready to go. So I'll take the linear field, and this is going to be just a simple 1-to-1 deal. So we'll select our null, drag the blink speed into the output, drag the blink fall off to the output, go to our linear field, drag our animation amount and our curve, and we'll just 1-to-1, click in, click out, and now it's being overwritten. So now you can see I can set this to 20, and I'll have the exact same thing. So then what I can do is if I need this LED duplicated, just duplicate it, and then I can make this one blink quicker. You can see this one blinks faster, and it duplicates all of the Xpresso and everything. So that's how you can make this modular. Now, one thing I would do if this is for a client project is I would do the Xpresso for the color control as well on the group here and add it in here so it links up. But for this demo, it's fine. I hope you find this useful for your product visualizations. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more content. Thanks for your support.